Firstly, the colour scheme of our products use the conventional colours of red, black and white. These colours are religiously used across all forms of our media products to create a clear indication of the horror genre, create a symbiosis between all media products, and to follow conventions of real media products that also display the use of these colours. Fangoria magazine is a good example of a magazine that uses these colours to portray a horror genre. In fact, Fangoria uses red as the colour of their masthead, effectively creating a link with the horror genre and also maintaining brand identity. The colour white is conventionally used within the character's costume to intensify their innocence. However, it is also conventional for the killer to wear a white mask. This creates a mysterious and unnerving atmosphere as the killer portrays the opposite to that of what white represents. Conclusively, white could be used within the mask to further disguise their evil identity, which enhances their mysterious demeanour and makes the killer more frightening. An example of where this has been used includes this Fangoria magazine. We took inspiration from this image and the iconic mask from Scream, and used the white mask in our pieces to create this effect and also create a striking, prominent image that contrasted effectively against the gloomy, dark background of the woods. Additionally, our killer is shown with a blood-stained mask which incorporates the use of a well-established aspect of horror iconography and thus suggests that the killer has killed and is therefore evil. As with existing film trailers, we chose the setting and location carefully to reflect the horror genre and the movie narrative. After researching examples from other slasher horrors, we decided our setting would consist of a dark woodland surrounding. There were several reasons for choosing this setting. Firstly, many slashers such as Friday the 13th and The Cabin in the Woods effectively used this setting, which inspired us to use it within our own. Secondly, this setting was chosen because of the strong symbolism of mystery and the unknown associated with a dark woodland setting. The tall trees appear ominous and provoking, which makes the characters feel inferior. The trees cast large shadows that allow the killer to hide, creating an eerie and unnerving atmosphere and establishing an enigma code that is conventional in slashers. Additionally, the vast expanse of woods allows the characters to become confused and easily lost, heightening the audience's anxiety. Lastly, we also chose this location due to the convention of the setting being in a very remote location, which is enforced through all horrors, specifically slashers. For instance, within the trailer for Cabin in the Woods, the character Jules says that the location of the cabin is not on the GPS.
It doesn't even show up on the GPS. It's unworthy of global positioning.
That's the whole point. Get off the grid, right?
Having a remote location heightens fear as the characters have no form of help nearby and are isolated alone with the killer. When designing our media products, we ensured that the setting was established within our film poster, magazine front cover and film trailer to form a symbiosis and reveal a cue to the narrative, intriguing our audience. It is also conventional to portray the setting within the poster, as shown in the Blair Witch Project and Insidious posters. Another convention specific to slasher that we followed and adapted was the narrative. Our narrative is of a group of teens who go on a camping holiday in a remote woodland setting. Whilst on this retreat, they encounter a killer who hunts and kills them one by one. We gathered inspiration from various real media products when designing and constructing our narrative. For instance, we were inspired by The Cabin in the Woods and Friday the 13th, which showed a group of teens going away on a group holiday together. Additionally, we took inspiration from I Know What You Did Last Summer when establishing that the narrative would involve a folklore surrounding the identity of the killer. In addition, the concept of camping in the woods was taken from the Blair Witch Project. Lastly, part of the narrative that is conventional in slashers is the act of killing the characters one by one. This is why we also included this within our narrative. Our narrative follows Todorow's structure. Our trailer was structured to contain an equilibrium, a disruption of the equilibrium, a recognition of a disruption, an attempt to restore the damage, this will be done by the final girl, and a new equilibrium. The new equilibrium would conventionally leave it open so that there is a possibility of a sequel. This is commonly done in slashers, such as Scream for example. Overall, When constructing our narrative, we compiled inspiration from various real media products and developed them to create our own narrative that was original and creative, therefore catering towards our target audience's wants and needs. Furthermore, we decided that we should use conventional character theory when constructing our characters. These character types feature in current slashers, of which we took particular inspiration from the Cabin in the Woods characters. These characters consist of a jock, a nerd, a stoner, a final girl, and a promiscuous girl who is the first girl. Slashers typically use these characters and establish them to the audience through the use of stereotypical costume and behaviour. Slashers conventionally have a final girl, as established by Carol J. Clover in her 1992 book, and also conventionally have a first girl. We incorporated all these conventions within our own characters. Firstly, the final girl is dressed maturely and is presented as a clever, sensible and strong individual that plays by the rules. We depicted Carol J. Clover's view of a final girl and made ours brave, wise, virginal and responsible. Her costume is not revealing and therefore sets her apart from the first girl. The first girl is a promiscuous character who is bitchy and rude and wears a revealing costume. It is traditional for this character to be the first to die, as though she is being punished for her immoral acts that is replicated across all slashers. Additionally, the jock is dressed in sporty clothes and is conventionally good-looking and dates the first girl. The nerd is another character. He is presented as a sensible and anxious individual that shares similarities with the final girl. He wears glasses to emphasise his studious characteristic, and in our trailer is an individual with ginger hair, which is stereotypically associated with being a nerd. Lastly, there is the character of a stoner. He is also rolling a joint, which supports his character type. This character is very chilled out and relaxed, which makes him naive to the situation within the narrative. This character also emphasises the antisocial behaviour that stereotypical teens partake in. Therefore, characters within our narrative are all conventionally used in slashers and have been replicated to continue these classic traditions. Moreover, it is conventional in horrors to have a character or characters that disrupt the piece and cause havoc on the other characters. In the case of slashers, it is conventional to have a single killer whose identity is hidden. This is exhibited throughout slashers, for example in the popular classics of Halloween, Friday the 13th and Scream. We used this convention and developed it to portray our own killer. Our killer's identity is unknown due to his disguise of a mask, which is specific slasher iconography and establishes the subgenre effectively to the audience. Our mask is similar to that of Michael Myers in Halloween, as his emotionless persona was inspirational and fitting for a character of such evil. We therefore adapted this idea and added our own take of fake blood splattered across it to also incorporate horror iconography. The mask used effectively portrays the character as emotionless and soulless, which makes him frightening and dangerous. We decided to use white because of the reasons described before and also because it is conventional, as seen in Friday the 13th and Scream. Furthermore, our killer wore a large black cloak, which resembles that of the killer within Scream. We chose to use the colour black as it is conventional for the killer to be covered in dark clothing. Black connotes death and evil and therefore sufficiently portrays his character. The killer has very little skin visible to reduce his vulnerability and make him appear strong and powerful. This is conventionally seen across the movies I have described. When designing our killer, we wanted him to be a human and not supernatural or mythical. This was to play on the fears arisen in the 1960s, which saw the fear of man as audiences became aware of the monstrous potential of a man and the murky darkness of the human mind. Therefore, our character was a human with dark intentions hiding behind a mask. To reveal this to the audience, when editing the image of the killer's eyes for the poster, we made sure to darken them but still make them visible. This gave him the appearance of a human, whilst making him threatening and therefore effectively playing on the fear that developed from the 1960s. Our characters link to props character theory. For instance, as described above, we have a villain. We also have the binary opposites of a villain, a hero. This hero is the final girl, as she is the last surviving character who defeats the villain. Additionally, with slashers, the final girl would also be the dispatcher because she is the first to know of the villain's evil presence. The helper in our trailer is the nerd character, as he shares similar personality characteristics with the final girl and will be the last person alive with her, therefore supporting the hero. Lastly, the damsel in distress character, known as the princess in Prock's character type theory, could be said to be the first girl. This is because her appearance depicts the beautiful princess character profile, and the first girl is consequently naive, leading to her character being the first to die in slashers. When designing and constructing our poster, we looked at real examples to use as inspiration and develop our understanding of the layout and general conventions involved. We followed many layout conventions within our poster. Firstly, we displayed the title of the film, Axed, in the conventional placement, which is within the bottom third of the poster below the main image. Additionally, it is conventionally the largest and boldest text on the page, and so effectively draws the audience's eye, which is very important when promoting a film. Secondly, the tagline is found at the very top of the page in small but bold and clear text, and is conventionally very short and snappy as to intrigue the audience. Moreover, the institutional information is located conventionally in the bottom third of the poster in very small text. The positioning of this text is conventional, as we took inspiration from the Cabin in the Woods poster. To adapt and develop the institutional information and make it unique, we included our names as the writers, directors and producers, and included the real actors' names within our movie. The date is located within the institutional information in bright red colour as to stand out, also following conventions. The positioning and bold colour is conventional, as shown in The Cabin in the Woods, Scream and Friday the 13th. The R, meaning restricted rating, is conventionally located on posters to warn the audience that it is not recommended for those under 17 to view. Ratings such as this are associated with movies, and so therefore using this will make our poster appear realistic. Additionally, the appearance of this will intrigue and incite our target audience of teenagers, as it indicates scary and gruesome scenes are involved within the film. Lastly, the main image is conventionally very dark and the main focal point of the poster. It is also conventionally very intriguing to view and contains key slasher and horror iconography such as the mask, blood and the axe. We chose the tagline "Welcome to the Woods" as inspiration from Friday the 13th's tagline of "Welcome to Crystal Lake." We therefore adapted and developed the tagline to make it our own. We chose to use ideas from Friday the 13th because it is a very successful film production, and therefore the tagline was a successful promotional technique. Additionally, the tagline is conventionally short and snappy, which effectively intrigues the audience and reveals a clue to the setting of the narrative. The tagline creates an enigma code, raising the questions, "Are we welcome?" and "What's in the woods?" Our tagline is placed at the top of the poster as to follow layout conventions, as seen in the posters The Strangers, Scream and Friday the 13th. Additionally, the title of our film, Axed, is found in large bold font and presented in white as to continue the colour scheme and create a large contrast against the black background. This is called contrast ratio. When designing our title, we took inspiration from the Scream posters, which present their movie title in white to contrast against the black background also. When researching real movie posters, we found that the title conventionally reflected the movie and the genre of horror. The main image is one of the most important aspects of a film poster, as it should effectively draw the audience's attention and entice them to continue looking at the rest of the poster. This is because it has been found that the first place the eye is drawn to is the middle, which conventionally consists of the main image. When designing our main image, we thoroughly researched real-life posters to establish the common conventions used. We found that almost all slasher movie posters contained the killer as the main image. For instance, My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Scream all incorporated the killer into their movie poster. This is due to the killer being one of the most iconic symbolisms of the slasher genre. The most conventional shot used in these movie posters is a medium close-up shot. Therefore, we decided to replicate this. Additionally, it is conventional for the killer to use mode of address in the main image as a way of forming a connection with the audience and intensifying their threatening appearance. The use of mode of address in our poster makes the killer have a piercing and threatening look and makes the audience feel as though he is peering into their soul and wants to destroy them. We darkened the areas around the eyes to make the killer appear to have dark intentions and an unfriendly appearance. This darkness also links to the convention of blacking out the eyes entirely, as shown in the Friday the 13th poster. However, we challenged this convention and only made the surrounding area of the eye dark, keeping the rest of the white eye visible and making the killer appear human. As mentioned before, this was to draw upon the fear that men can be monsters also and do murderous things to people. This makes the audience fear the killer and others around them that have this potential of being a monster. Another conventional aspect of slasher posters includes having the weapon within the main image. This is because the weapon is also another iconic symbol of the slasher genre and therefore classed as specific slasher iconography. The use of a weapon within the main image has been done across various famous movie posters. The weapons are key icons of the movies and are therefore successful techniques when promoting them. For example, Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street has the weapon of bladed fingers. Jason from Friday the 13th has a machete, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a chainsaw, and Ghostface from Scream and Michael Myers from Halloween both have knives as their weapon. All these weapons are portrayed on the film posters. We therefore conventionally used our weapon of an axe in our movie poster. However, the positioning of our weapon is not conventional and is therefore an example where we developed conventions to make our poster unique and original. It is not conventional because typically the weapon is held by the killer but positioned facing downwards, as shown in Friday the 13th, The Chainsaw Massacre and Maniac. We decided not to do this because we wanted both the killer's mask and the weapon of the axe to be in full focus within the image of a medium close-up shot, of which could not be achieved in a long shot. The setting in our poster is conventional, as both the Blair Witch Project and Friday the 13th use the same settings in their posters. We drew inspiration from the Blair Witch Project when creating our background, and it is therefore similar. We thought that this poster was very effective and created a moody atmosphere while successfully establishing the setting of the narrative. We conventionally placed this image of the setting behind the killer and made it visible at the top of the poster as seen in the Blair Witch Project. However, we developed this idea to make it unique. We made the woodland background appear darker and used the colours of black and blue instead of white used on the Blair Witch Project poster. We decided to do this because we felt the dark colours created more of a gloomy, eerie and dramatic finish and would therefore heighten the fear of the audience. Low-key lighting is conventionally used in horror posters such as Scream and Halloween to create a contrast against the main image, intensify mystery and create an eerie, threatening atmosphere. I think the use of conventional low-key lighting is atmospheric and dramatic, creating an enigma code. We drew inspiration from the Scream and Halloween posters when deciding on the black background in our poster, therefore showing that we followed this convention. Furthermore, another poster we took lighting inspiration from includes A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. Both posters consist of a vignette lighting effect, which is where the background surrounding the killer is light and then slowly fades to black. This is an effective technique that makes the image appear dark and gloomy, and is an example of how we drew inspiration from a poster and made it our own. Additionally, profile lighting is conventionally used on these posters to indicate that the killer has an evil side. We therefore incorporated this into our movie poster, as the right half of our mask is darker as it is cast in a shadow. When designing and constructing our magazine front cover, we looked at real examples to use as inspiration and develop our understanding of the layout and general conventions involved. We followed many layout conventions within our magazine front cover. Firstly, the masthead is conventionally the largest text on the page and is presented in a conventional bold colour. We chose the colour of white because it contrasts against the black background and symbolises the binary opposites of good versus evil, which will be a common theme within our magazine, which promotes horror movies. It is conventional for mastheads to be unique to the brand, such as Empire has its unique bold red text and Total Film has the memorable stencil cut into the film text. Therefore, we used a unique typography to achieve this effect and make our products more realistic. Additionally, we positioned our masthead in the conventional position, which is the top third of the front cover, and placed it behind the killer's head, which is another conventional feature. Placing it behind the killer's head shows that the masthead is a well-known brand and is easily recognisable even if parts are not displayed. We challenged conventions by presenting our masthead in a white text opposed to red. We did this because we wanted our masthead to stand out against the black, and therefore using white would effectively create a strong contrast ratio. Additionally, as discussed before, black and white share a strong association with the binary opposites of good and evil. These are important themes presented in horror movies, and so were suitable to portray on a horror magazine. Secondly, another layout convention that we followed includes having a skyline. Skylines are found across all the magazines within my research and planning, and so is therefore an important feature. We took inspiration from Empire, Sherlock Holmes 2, and Empire, Cowboys and Aliens when designing our skyline. These two skylines made the magazine appear successful and empowering, which is how we wanted our magazine to be perceived. Therefore, we decided our skyline should contain the text, "Britain's Best Horror Magazine." This bold statement will intrigue the audience and make them want to read it, as it has been stated that it is the best in the country. Also, our audience will feel as though they might be missing out if they do not read this magazine. Furthermore, the cell lines are conventionally placed around the left and right hand side of the main image, as to not overlap it and cause a distraction. The cell lines conventionally promote other movies within the same genre as the movie being promoted. Therefore, our cell lines contain horror movies. This is conventional as shown in other magazines such as Fangoria, Empire and Total Film. For instance, this Empire magazine is promoting the movie Man of Steel, and therefore the cell lines consist of superhero-themed movies within the subgenre action. This is why, to follow conventions, we made sure all our cell lines showed films within the horror genre. To emphasise the slasher genre, we added the cell line 2017's Top Slasher Flicks. This will appeal to our target audience who enjoy slasher movies. We also used movies that are new, such as Insidious, The Last Key and The Nun. This will be effective in drawing in our target audience and makes our magazine appear new and realistic. Moreover, we conventionally made important cell lines larger as to stand out. For instance, here we have the text "Exclusive Interview" in bold capital letters finished with an exclamation mark. This text is also in red to further make it a prominent aspect of the cover. This cell line will intrigue the audience, effectively drawing their attention. The text below it saying "cast of" is not that important, which is why it is in lowercase and small. The text "A Quiet Place" is larger because it is a new movie and therefore important, as it will contribute to drawing in an audience. Our film title is conventionally located in bold capitals within the bottom third of the magazine front cover, as shown in Fangoria, Cabin in the Woods, and Empire, Cowboys and Aliens. It is conventionally the second largest text on the magazine front cover and is presented in a unique text that is also conventional for film titles. The typography used for the film title will be the same across all of our media products, creating a clear symbiosis. Underneath our title is the text "From the producers of Cabin in the Woods and Cloverfield." This indicates that the movie will be good because these two successful horror movies are created by the same producers. Having text that indicates other work that the producer or director has worked on is a conventional tool that effectively draws an audience. Additionally, we have put the text "First Look" in a box above the movie title. This is not conventional and so therefore challenges conventions. Its purpose is to make the reader intrigued and feel special, as they will have the first look at this brand new movie, strengthening readership loyalty. Additionally, another convention of magazine front covers is the feature of a puff. This is shown in Empire, Man of Steel and Total Film Epic Blockbuster issue. Our puff is located along the right hand side and is the conventional size of a puff. It contains conventional information that intrigues the reader and entices them to read on. In the case of our magazine, we told the reader that they had the chance to read an on-set exclusive, which further promotes the movie. Puffs are conventionally about the movie being promoted or another movie within that genre. Therefore, like Empire, Man of Steel, we related the puff to the movie being promoted. We conventionally used a colour that would make our puff stand out. We chose gold because it connotes royalty and therefore indicates importance. Our main image challenges conventions, as it is not common for both the killer and the final girl to be positioned as the main image. It is, however, conventional to have the killer as the focus, so we have followed that convention. We took inspiration from the magazine front cover Empire the Hobbit, where the main image consists of an evil character, Gollum, approaching the hero. We thought that this was an effective way to indicate the action that will unfold in the movie and the binary opposites of good and evil. By using the final girl and the killer, we have indicated to our audience that these characters are important within the plot of the movie. We used a female actress on the cover because audience can accept the idea of a scared, screaming female more easily than the idea of a scared, screaming male. Furthermore, it is conventional for the actress to be in character in an action shot on film magazines. This is because it effectively portrays the film and excites the audience through the use of emotion and action displayed within the image. Additionally, the shot we used is a conventional low-angle shot that makes the killer appear intimidating and is conventionally used to create this effect. Lastly, we added a barcode to our magazine, which is found on other magazine front covers, but in some cases is not. We placed it in the conventional location of the bottom right-hand corner. We added a barcode as we thought it made the appearance of the magazine seem more realistic and therefore professional. When designing and constructing our trailer, we looked at real examples to use as inspiration and develop our understanding of the camera, sound, lighting and editing conventions involved. During the research and planning phase, we found that it was very common for the antagonist to be shot using a low angle as to give them added height and size. We therefore emulated this successful technique in our own trailer. We shot this scene when the killer was about to kill the nerd character. The positioning of the killer standing above this character made the killer appear strong and powerful, which strongly juxtaposed against how the nerd character was portrayed, as vulnerable and weak. The nerd character portrayed these characteristics as they were emphasized to the audience through the use of a high-angle shot, making him appear small and powerless. This made it clear to the audience that Levi Strauss's binary oppositions of good and evil was used in our trailer, which is conventionally portrayed in horror films. When constructing this shot, we took inspiration from the Sorority Row trailer. We were inspired by the shot that showed the weapon being thrown at the camera, which then flashed white before transitioning to the next scene. I thought that this was a very effective way to produce fear and transition the shot.
You'll never know. With 50 crazy
To incorporate this shot into our trailer, we instructed the antagonist to swing the axe as though the camera was a person, quickly cutting it and flashing a white screen. This scene was a point of view shot type, which is a conventional shot used in horror and also uses the editing technique of shot reverse shot. It allowed the audience to visualize what the nerd character was seeing and feeling at that point in time, making them feel connected to the scene and feel empathy towards his character. The use of a white flash is piercing and shocks the audience. It represents the foretold white light that people see before they die, supporting that the character has died and that this is a point of view shot. In the lead up to this effective shot, a reaction shot is used to show the character's face when he turns around to see the killer standing above him. Reaction shots are very conventional in horror, as they show the fear the characters are experiencing, therefore scaring the audience. A very popular reaction shot includes the shower scene from Psycho. In Slasher, reaction shots have been used in the trailers for The Cabin in the Woods, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Friday the 13th. Another shot that we wanted to replicate but develop was inspired by a scene from Friday the 13th. This scene showed the antagonist Jason behind a sheet which used backlighting to make a silhouette appear. We developed this scene by using a torch as a source of backlighting that I shone onto the axe while standing outside of the tent. This created a clear shadow, creating a contrast ratio, which showed the killer creeping behind the tent of which the couple were inside. This scene foreshadowed that the couple were going to soon be killed, exciting the audience and creating anticipation. Therefore, this scene acted as an action shot as it was significant to the progression of the story. This action shot led to an enigma code whereby the audience raised the question, is the killer going to kill the couple? And this entices them to watch the film because they want this question to be answered and they also want to see the killing. Furthermore, there was a scene from Friday the 13th that introduced the antagonist near the beginning. We liked that the killer was shown before the killing started, as it built the scene, introduced the antagonist, and established that there was danger. Therefore, we developed this shot and used multiple insert shots of the killer throughout the trailer to aid the audience's understanding that there was danger lurking within the woods where the teens were staying, therefore guiding our audience to interpret the text's preferred reading outlined by Stuart Hall. A convention that we challenged included the equilibrium form of the narrative that is created as an establishing shot. The equilibrium was formed by Todorow's 5-stage narrative structure. We decided that, because this was used in every trailer that we had seen, we wanted to alter our equilibrium to make it unique. We still wanted a calm equilibrium so that the montage editing could effectively juxtapose against the calmness from the first few scenes. However, we did not use a conventional aerial shot of a car as used in The Cabin in the Woods.
Whole point, get off the grid, right?
Therefore, our establishing shot consisted of a panning camera movement that scanned the setting, showing the characters sitting around a campfire, talking and smiling. We felt that this scene acted as an equilibrium, as it was calm and happy whilst also establishing the friendship and relationships of the group of teenagers. This scene also established that the characters were camping and allowed the urban legend to be introduced.
You guys heard the story of the Axeman who used to live in these woods? Into a car accident which left his face disfigured.
Most of the shots displaying the killer were conventional medium close-up shots. We used a medium close-up shot because it showed a large proportion of the killer from waist up and was conventional, as shown in Friday the 13th. However, due to the killer's dark black costume and the trailer being set at night, it was difficult for the camera to capture the outline of the killer's body. However, I believe this to be very effective, as it emphasised that the killer was camouflaged and could therefore hide in the dense woodlands undetected, making his character appear creepy and eerie. Additionally, there was a strong contrast ratio in these shots due to the mask being white and therefore standing out against the dark surroundings. We used an extreme close-up shot of the killer at a jump scare. This extreme close-up aided the shock and horror of the unsuspecting audience and allowed them a quick in-depth look at the killer's terrifying mask. The use of a mask is conventional in slashers and clearly signifies the subgenre. Lastly, within the montage editing, we shot a few scenes showing the characters running in fear. This has been used in other slasher trailers, such as Friday the 13th. But instead of having the camera in front of the characters, we had it behind them, following them, like the killer was. We were also inspired by the use of Steadicams in this shot, and although we didn't have one, we ran with the camera to shoot these scenes as to heighten the shot's realism and make it appear as though the audience was running behind the characters. We used various editing techniques within our trailer, including insert shot, shot reverse shot, and zoom, as mentioned previously. We also used montage editing, which is a very conventional form of editing used in horror trailers. Montage editing is a technique used to compile a series of short scenes into a sequence that is action-packed and thrilling for the audience to view. We therefore made certain that our montage editing consisted of short scenes that were action-packed and thrilling. The accompaniment of sound allowed us to create this desired effect. We placed our montage editing within the last few minutes of the trailer, which is conventional. We edited our trailer so that it reflected a calm atmosphere and mood within the beginning, as to establish a calm equilibrium, which is conventional. To develop this, we used slow transitions between each shot, which consisted of a fade to black transition that's duration was lengthened as to set a slow pace. This is seen in the first few shots of Friday the 13th.
Did you know a young boy drowned here? He was my son, and today is his birthday.
We then made our shots faster as the action built until the trailer reached our montage editing, which consisted of very fast editing as previously described. Another aspect of editing that we used included jump scares. These are conventional in horror trailers as they scare the audience who are not expecting these scary scenes, causing them to jump, hence the name jump scare. Jump scares can be seen in the trailer Friday the 13th.
She's dead.
We used a jump scare after a pause of silence, which made it effective. As previously stated, we used the camera zoom technique when filming the scene where the urban legend was being told. We zoomed in on the jock and first girl's face, who were speaking at the time, to add tension and focus the audience's attention on this important part of the narrative.
You guys heard the story of the Axeman who used to live in these woods? Into a car accident which left his face disfigured.
Used to get bullied by all the children in the neighbourhood, teenagers. They used to throw rocks.
Conventionally, sound found in the equilibrium is calm and quiet. We replicated this convention in our own trailer, which exhibits a calm, serene, non-diegetic sound playing quietly as our equilibrium is presented. This music then slightly alters as it is accompanied by an eerie low-pitch rhythm that makes the scene more sinister and ominous. It effectively foreshadows that something unsettling is going to happen, creating an enigma code. This rhythm increases in volume as the scenes develop and transition out of the equilibrium stage. It is conventional for horror trailers to use eerie music that has a constant sinister rhythm. This is why we chose to use this piece of music in our trailer. Furthermore, it is conventional in trailers to have very high-pitched sound. Therefore, at key moments, a loud, high-pitched, non-diegetic sound with a fast tempo is played. This is used, for instance, at the scene where the couple are in the tent and the shadow appears. The sound used here effectively foreshadows that something bad is going to happen. In this scene, we increase the volume of the high-pitched sound to heighten the audience's fear and allow us to suddenly cut to silence. This made the use of silence both effective and dramatic. Using silence in trailers is another conventional aspect of sound that is used in the slasher Friday the 13th.
She's dead.
It is used to build tension and anticipation before a scary scene appears. This is why we used no sound in the scene directly before a jump scare and when the killer is presented. To heighten the scariness of the jump scare, we used a quick high-pitched sound effect that further shocked the audience when this scene appeared. Foley sounds are conventionally used in horror trailers to intensify sounds. We used the ambient diegetic sound of leaves rustling and twigs breaking, which we intensified by increasing the volume of these aspects and filming them closer to the camera's mic so that they appeared louder than in reality. When the jock and first girl characters are reciting the urban legend to the group of friends, we used the contrapuntal sound of children laughing. This was used to strengthen the narrative as our urban legend involves the killer being teased by children because of his appearance. The use of contrapuntal sound was therefore effective within this scene. The montage editing section of a trailer is conventionally accompanied with very fast-paced music to represent the fast action-packed sequence of shocks and heighten the audience's fear and excitement due to an adrenaline rush. We therefore followed these conventions to achieve the same effect with our audience. The non-diegetic music we used was very loud and high-pitched, with a fast and low tempo. It also contained loud beating thuds that were repeated in a manner that could be said to depict an axe hitting its victim, linking to our narrative. Furthermore, this music was reduced in volume at the scene where the nerd character is trying anxiously to find his glasses. This scene was quiet and the non-diegetic sound of fast piano notes were played to build tension and create anticipation. Lastly, when the film name appears, a loud non-diegetic sound effect of a thud is presented. This is because it is conventional to use sound effectively at these key moments to make them more memorable and prominent to the audience, as the accompanying sound gives the film name a bigger impact. For instance, in Insidious, a very high-pitched sinister sound effect accompanies the presentation of the film name to create this wanted effect. Lastly, it is conventional to create a symbiosis between all media products. Therefore, when creating our 3 media products of a movie poster, a film magazine front cover and a trailer, we ensured that certain aspects were conventionally placed across all to create a clear symbiosis. An example of a case where we did this includes the title. The title, font and colour was used across all media products as to establish a clear symbiosis. Additionally, the same institutional information used on our film poster was also used in the trailer. Lastly, the colours within our chosen colour scheme of red, black and white were also used across all media products. We also created a teaser poster consisting of the final girl. Within these posters, we used the same title, tagline and rating symbol and background to again create a clear symbiosis. Overall, we used, developed and challenged forms, codes and conventions of real media products within our own to make it successful and effective for our target audience to enjoy viewing.